I'm Jay Pitts, a real estate broker, agent, leader, and investor. For the last decade, I've navigated the craziest of real estate markets this country has ever seen, selling over 2,000 homes, moving in and out of markets, always ahead of the curve. And now I'm bringing that perspective to you. This is your resource, and Real Talk About Real Estate starts right now. And we're back, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Resource, Real Talk About Louisville Real Estate. I am your host, Jay Pitts, broker owner of RE/MAX Premier Properties, leader at JT Pitts and Associates. Now, just as a quick reminder, before we get into today's topic, you can stream us live on any platform. You can stream the podcast on any platform that you podcast from. We'd appreciate your specific attention to Apple iTunes and Spotify, and we are live on YouTube every Wednesday right around lunch. We'll get to socials and where you can find us and how you can interact with the program a little later. Jumping right into today's topic, I am very excited. You know, we've kind of been spending a few episodes, in case you haven't noticed, going back to the basics. So today's topic, I think, is a bit nostalgic for me, frankly. A lot of you know that kind of, interact with the podcast, have listened to a lot of our content over the years. You know that, the basic path that my career has taken from mortgage professional, real estate investor with a license, helping friends, to becoming a full-time real estate agent at the very beginning of the Great Recession and foreclosure crisis, to foreclosure agent, property liquidator for the nation's largest banks, turned substantial team lead, to reinventing myself, going back to production on the traditional level in 2012-13, to building a mega team brokerage, mortgage, property management operation here. In the most recent years, you kind of know that story. I'm left on a day-to-day basis recently, though, considering kind of where we are in this world of real estate. You have a lot of people, a lot of social media outlets, a lot of, taking the liberty to use whatever platform they have, big, small, what have you, to make prognostications about where the real estate market is headed. Now, what I'll tell you is I am not a doom and gloom prognosticator. I do not believe that we're heading for a market crash. I have spoke at length about the supply and demand disparity, about the macroeconomics, about, generationally where we are in the United States of America and where our real estate market is headed. I've spoken on all that. I think those are market forces that are larger than life. Those are market forces that cannot be affected by monetary policy, even if it is one particular administration's kind of, desire and actions and choices that are kind of moving us in the direction that we're in. We're in an inflationary environment. Prices have appreciated. There's all sorts of situations that we're going through right now. I don't think we're headed for a crash. But regardless, of whether, what goes up must come down. And the real estate market is no different. The stock market is no different. I believe things have been artificially inflated for a lot of reasons, a lot of very valid reasons. But what goes up must come down, and we need to understand that. And so what I did was I took the time today, prepping for today's episode, to just basically put some thought into delivering you what I believe to be 5 analog activities. So these are not high budget items. These are not high tech items. These are analog, sweat equity, get your hands dirty type of activities that work in any real estate market. And if I'm a betting man, which I am, put my money where my mouth is, if I'm a betting man, I would venture a guess, I would venture a bet, a wager, that the only reason these things haven't been done in recent years is that business has been too easy to find through other less invasive methods. When money is readily available, Okay, we tend to spend money to solve problems. When money is in short supply or harder to come by, we tend to over-index on effort. So as with anything, okay, I will say that things have been easy. We're a little fat and happy in the real estate market right now. Yeah, we had a scare in March of 2020 and in April of 2020, like so many industries did, but we came out the other side clean, and actually the actions that were taken by our government put us in a position to have historic 2021 and 2022 so far. Now rates are climbing north of 5% in some cases, slightly less in others. Investor rates are climbing up towards 6%. It's not a number we've seen in a long time. And some people are freaking out. Some people don't know what to do. But what I'm going to provide you today with is a set of activities that will work in any market. And like I told you, I don't believe that we're headed for a crash. The supply-demand disparity will exist. We cannot produce enough units of housing to fill the needed demand over the next few years. We cannot produce enough to fill that demand, to balance and bring us to equilibrium. You're not looking at 6 months of supply on the market anytime soon. You're not looking at a 6-month absorption rate. In fact, we are less than one single month, 0.8 last I checked, 0.8 absorption rate in Louisville, Kentucky. It is the most pronounced seller's market in history. The only time it ever even approached was May of last year. So yes, prices are higher. Yes, rates are higher. Yes, rates are making homes less affordable. Yes, it's going to take a small percentage of demand off the table, but the disparity that is left is still going to be more akin to 2019 than it ever would be compared to 2009. So, with all that said, I want you to sit here and listen, pretty please, to the next 5 things I outlined for you, because they're activities that will work rain or shine. Good markets, bad markets. We have become fat and happy because the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, the Facebook ads, the Google local service ads, the referral sources that are existing out there have been so easy to convert for the last several years. But that's all changing now. Something good doesn't always, it never lasts forever. It doesn't last. There's always going to be a next iteration. All right, so let's get down to it. Number 1, door knocking. You can cringe. That's fine. If you go back to like episode 12 of the podcast, you'll see my former co-host and I argue over the merits of door knocking. And the root of my argument was just simply that. Real estate is a market that is so wide open. Literally, there is a person I see out my window at a gas station across the street that is either a homeowner or wants to be. And I could approach that person if I could find a way to approach them appropriately and have a meaningful conversation. There's a decent chance that I would come away with the potential for some business. Real estate is so wide open. Any conversation can yield a result. We've stopped door knocking because listings sell in 5 minutes. We've stopped door knocking because we can find buyer leads and go out and fight with other agents in a multiple offer to try and win, and we feel like those odds are greater. A better use of your time is probably looking for listings. I know you have a recent sale. I know you have a recent sale where you repped a buyer that paid a historic number for that neighborhood or the general vicinity of that property. I would submit to you that printing yourself 50 flyers that outline the basic terms of that sale without any private information about that client, of course, the basic information about that sale, and go door knocking and speak to homeowners in that neighborhood about the terms of that sale and what you did to help your client win, and offering your service when appropriate to represent them as sellers to hopefully try to obtain the same circumstances as that seller obtained. You have proximity. You have knowledge that is not public. You have information and context to provide. Put that information to use. It's quite simple. If you door knock 5 houses on either side and 10 across the street, 20 doors will yield you a lead that will have as equal of chance of closing as, a Zillow lead would. And it might take you 15 minutes to put the flyer together, 5 minutes to print it out, 30 minutes to drive to the property, and an hour to knock all those doors and have those conversations. You're looking for one conversation that leads to something positive. Yes, if you are sheepish and embarrassed and awkward, you will have zero chance. Zero chance. Nobody wants to work with someone who's afraid of speaking to them. You have to muster some courage. How do you get there? Do it. Do it. How do you get comfortable with anything? Do more of it. And in case you haven't already hit, the escape button on this podcast episode, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable. Ask me. If you were standing in front of me, I'll answer for you, and I'll ask the question as well. Jay, have you ever done that yourself? Abso-freaking-lutely. Because when I was trying to reinvent myself from REO listing agent closing 200 transactions a year, team lead of 6 closing 375 deals a year, to no REO inventory available, all of my business wiped out, and trying to find something in markets substantially less active than today, I went back to the basics. I'll probably say it more than once in this episode, but in a flat or declining market, you work twice as hard for half the money. We are fat and happy and spoiled rotten with how easy it has been to find real estate transactions over the last 3 years. We were headed for a correction in 2019 pre-COVID. The federal government put 20% of the nation's entire debt into play in 1 year, injecting that much money into the economy that was already starting to show signs of recovery has consequences. Consequences that look like inflation. Inflation, which requires action, which requires rises in interest rates to numbers we haven't seen in more than a decade. You have got to go back to the basics, because the days of signing up and spending, $2,500 a month and having your lender pay half of it for Zillow leads and finding 2 deals a month from it, and on top of whatever your sphere of influence provides, they are over. I told you when Zillow Flex became a thing that rolled out nationwide that it was going to be a time when you're not on Flex, you can no longer play in Zillow's sandbox. Realtors going the same way. The leads are becoming less valuable, and they're taking a larger percentage of the commissions you generate from them. This game is going to be feast or famine. You have to go back to the basics. Number 2, do a CMA for every past client. Hell, I don't care if it's every past client. I don't care if it's 5 past clients. But do a CMA. You have the potential to do a current day comparable market analysis, unsolicited, for everyone you know, especially every client that you've sold a home to or for. And then hand deliver it to their house, text them from their driveway with it inside a manila envelope, and walk up and put it in their hand. Hey, I know you didn't ask for this. It's just a service I like to provide my clients. Every so often, I like to do a free, a complimentary, home equity evaluation. Here is a comparable market analysis that I put together for your property, taking into account what's sold in the surrounding areas. I know you know that prices have gone up substantially, but I'm guessing you don't know quite how much it is. Here's the number. Hope you have a great day. By the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. Oh, you've had some thoughts of selling. Phenomenal. When can we sit down and discuss or schedule a conversation? 25% of your sphere of influence is considering selling right now. Right now. Are there more real estate agents in the market than there ever have been? The answer is yes. Are more consumers hiring a real estate agent than ever before? The answer is yes. So your limiting belief, your drunk monkey thoughts that tell you they're going to go for sale by owner, only if you don't speak to them, only if you don't show them value. People don't wake up every morning thinking about how to support your real estate business. You must show them how. You must show them how. Back to the basics. Number 3, organize a neighborhood event. This could be your neighborhood. This could be a neighborhood that you've sold a lot of homes in over your career. Look to layer levels of impressions. If you advertise on Google in that zip code, if you advertise on Zillow in that zip code, if you have a lot of listings, if you're holding an open house this weekend, if you have lots of past clients that live there, layer impressions of your marketing by doing analog activities like planning and organizing a neighborhood event. Work with the local HOA, talk to the president, offer value, rent a U-Haul and go around the first week of January and offer to pick up people's Christmas trees and haul them to the dump. That gives you infinite opportunities in the most engaged time of year for online home search to be in the feed of a neighborhood that you wish to sell more property in. It's the most inexpensive advertising ever, but all you got to really do is do it analog. Door knock the neighborhood to offer the service and hand out flyers and let people know. Yeah, it's cold in December. I don't care. Put on some gloves. Pick up Christmas trees. Do a neighborhood cookout. Organize Santa photos at the lodge or the whatever, the building next to the neighborhood pool. Do a food truck Friday. You don't even have to pay for the food. People will pay for it themselves. It gives you the opportunity to publicize and advertise the fact that you delivered that opportunity for them. Does your neighborhood have a playground or a small amphitheater? Renting a stage is not that expensive. You could have live music come out on a Friday evening. It's springtime. It's the most beautiful weather we have all year. People want to get outside. The flowers are going to be in bloom soon. Do something. Do something. It's been way too easy to find clients lately. It's about time we had to work for it. Back to the basics. Number 4, overnight a package to a prospective seller. Now that's kind of generic. What does that mean? I know as a real estate agent that you have in your mind a home or a street or a neighborhood that you've never sold in that you would like to, or even better, an area of town where you find it uniquely valuable. You just love the culture. You think it's got a lot of opportunity for improvement. You think the values are on the way up, but it's underappreciated by the majority of folks out there. I'm thinking about, areas like Shelby Park and, Smoketown here in Louisville where, 10 years ago, I was telling people that it's the new Germantown. I mean, it could be Germantown. It could be St. Matthews. It could be, Cherokee Triangle. This literally applies to almost anywhere. And with a very inexpensive PVA membership, number 1, you can find a property on the street that you want to be on. You can find the owner's name of that property, when they purchased it, how much they purchased it for, and the rough estimate of value that comes from a tax evaluation from the local PVA. There's so much information you can glean from just that one source. Okay, let me ask you this. What if they've lived there 30 years? What if they purchased it for $35,000 and now it's worth $250,000 and the property hasn't changed ownership in a long time? Do you think that that seller has some potential motivation to sell? Well, the answer is obviously yes. And I'm sure you've got a listing presentation. You may even have it codified into, written form to provide people. There are literally a dozen different calls to action that you can make. And for a very limited amount of expense, and 5 minutes on Canva, and you can create something if you don't have it. Just put it in the envelope with a handwritten, letter or a hand-signed typed letter and overnight it to the person's address. Are you thinking about selling your home? Hell, if you're cheap, drive over there and drop the overnight package that you get from free at the FedEx store on their front porch, because what percentage of overnight envelopes get opened, do you think? I hope you're screaming 100% as you drive down the road in your car and listen to this podcast episode. 100% of overnight envelopes get opened. That's called a 100% impression rate on your marketing that you put inside an overnight envelope. And it doesn't matter how it gets there. If you want to save the $15 and drive over to the house, go for it. Gas is $4 a gallon. You weigh the options. It's on you. But go back to the basics. These are things that I have done. Beg, borrow, and steal to find an opportunity. You have no idea the value in breaking into this industry at the worst moment it's ever been for real estate agents in 50 years, 60, probably the Great Depression. Probably 100 years ago is how far you had to go back. Maybe 1981. Maybe. But breaking in 2008 makes you shameless to do nothing. You will put forth the effort. You will make it happen. I hope that the real estate agents that have gotten in as a result of good times are as resilient as I was required to be in 2008. Number 5. And this one kind of hits close to home. Number 5. This is how I got my first real estate deal. And I'm going to tell a little story, and I've told it on the podcast, I think, before, but my very first real estate deal as a full-time real estate agent in 2008 was procured in 2007. I was still an employee of Countrywide Home Loans, had not yet made the switch full-time, but I did have a real estate license, and I was able to start receiving some phone leads. We used to use the system called ProQuest. ProQuest is, a 1-800 number that goes on the sign. People call the sign. There's a code. They press the code. They get transferred to your phone for pricing information, et cetera, right? It was Zillow Concierge before that existed, right? When people used to still drive neighborhoods and look for houses because the neighborhood and the location was pretty much the most restrictive criteria, save for price, which was probably about equal. But this kind of elderly woman drives a neighborhood, finds a ranch home. It's a bank foreclosure. She calls the number on the sign, gets transferred to me. It did not work for her. I set her up on a search eventually, but what I did first, after that first call, I got her home address, which may sound a little creepy now. Why would you ask for my home address? Well, if I needed to send you something in the mail, that she didn't ask, but like if somebody asked, that's what I would say. Well, I'd like to drop you a business card in the mail is what I used to say. So people would give me their home address and I would sit down and write a handwritten personal note thanking them for taking the time to speak with me. And I would make it as just thankful and, just, I don't know, just put it all out there. Like, I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to speak with you. I just want to thank you. And here's my business card. And so that was around November, probably November, December. I left, the bank probably right around Christmas. I had already received those lead calls. I started, sending those personal notes, and she mistook it for a Christmas card. I guess her memory wasn't great. Mistook it for a Christmas card and was like so overwhelmed because she didn't get Christmas cards from anyone except her kids. And so she called me immediately upon receiving it to thank me for sending her Christmas card. And I used that as an opportunity to tell her that I had done some searching and found a prospective property for her, and we went to see it. She was thrilled. She was not very confident in her ability to buy, but we got her pre-qualified, and she bought that first house. So she bought that first house, and it was a pretty magical experience, to be quite honest. It was a very, very small price. I think it was like $50,000. And, I just thought, I didn't make very much money. I did get my first deal, so I was excited about that. But honestly, it probably made me worry that I'd made the wrong decision getting out of mortgage and into real estate because, success didn't look like very much at that point. $1,500 commission split with your broker, worst real estate market ahead of you that, we may have ever seen. And so I was honestly like a little dejected, even though I was happy about helping her because she really deserved it. Also, that cemented my theory and feeling that all price points, regardless of the realtor's earnings, deserve the same level of impeccable service. So I'd like, thank her for that as well. But I kind of thought that was the end of it. But it turns out I made a pretty big impact on her because one of her kids, her son, referred me to his boss. And his boss, I come to find out, was quite a wealthy man and bought about a $500,000 home, about 2 months later from me in, one of the more affluent suburbs around town. And that was a much bigger commission, obviously, 10x the commission, 10x the price, 10x the commission. And up until that point, I had worked only buyer business from phone leads that came in on bank foreclosed properties, and I had ended up closing 6 deals in my first couple of months. All of them, probably I think the highest was $75,000. So I didn't have enough money to pay my bills plus my student loan payments. My wife and I were set to get married, and I don't know that I had enough to take care of my obligations there either. And frankly, until that moment, I was worried that I'd made a mistake getting into real estate. But that was all that I needed, that confidence that came away from that one referral, to understand that literally any client, any relationship, any connection that you have in this industry is enough to carry you forward. And as long as you make an impression on people, an impact on people, and you handle your business, this industry will take care of you. It does not mean that you don't have to put in the work, though, right? So for the next several years, literally every single person I met and discussed real estate with got a handwritten personal note. I sent handwritten personal notes to my best friends, guys that would probably make fun of me in a group setting for sending that note. And they did. They mocked me. And because that's what your brothers, that's what your boys do to you. But in private, they thanked me. And they found reasons to send me business. They joked about how I was the guy who's never too busy for your referrals. That's fine. After a few beers with your buddies, give me all the hell you need. But I also know that they were proud of me. And they're proud to this day of the success that we've achieved, and they know what I sacrificed for it. I opened myself up to ridicule to my friends. I I made it personal. I really did. And it was personal to me because the things that I sacrificed, the work that I put in, working twice as hard for half the money is not an exciting prospect unless and until the alternative is sincere failure, unhappiness, disappointment. These 5 things that I've shared with you today, door knocking around a recent sale, preferably a record one, CMA's door drop to your best clients, your best friends, anybody you care about, anybody who has a reason to refer you or think about you at the time that they need real estate service, organizing a neighborhood event in a neighborhood that you want to get more business, preferably one where you have past clients, preferably one where you're already advertising, preferably the neighborhood you actually live in. Overnighting a package to a specific prospective seller that you've done back research on, that has a natural motivation to sell. A handwritten personal note to every single person you talk to. These are not things that the person on the other end of the communication are going to take lightly. They know they're difficult. That's why they have impact. Ultimately, what makes you remembered is not what you can do for people, but how you make them feel. When you make them feel important by your level of effort, attention, energy, they back up the money truck for you. I'm reminded of something my dad told me when I started to get into real estate. It's probably around the time that I was sending out those personal notes to that lady who mistook it for a Christmas card, is that if you never, ever worry about the money, you just worry about taking care of people, the money will absolutely take care of itself. And no truer words have ever been spoken in real estate, but I'm just really, really excited to be the one that brings this to you today. The information I've shared is timely, given the circumstances that we are going through right now. It is timely. It is relevant. It is going to continue to become more and more relevant because remember, what goes up must come down. What goes down must go up. Interest rates are on the rise. Demand is on the fall. You have a soft landing. The soft landing is the lack of supply. That's going to continue to put pressure on prices. That's going to continue to require builders to build more inventory. There's going to be opportunities to sell property. It just requires more of you, better of you, more energy, more attention, more detail orientation, more. If you haven't given it everything you have, you're going to, because the alternative is failure. So let's go back to the basics and use these 5 analog activities, preferably to generate listings. Because if I have the opportunity to take a listing or close a Zillow buyer, I'm taking the listing any day of the week. Any day. So once more, to recap, door knock around a recent sale, preferably a historic high for the neighborhood. CMA's door drop to anyone meaningful to you. Anyone meaningful. Organize a neighborhood event in a neighborhood you'd like to do more business, take more listings in. Overnight a package to a specific prospective seller that you have a reasonable assurance that they have a high level of motivation to potentially sell, and handwrite a personal note, if not to everyone, to near everyone that you speak with about real estate. Whatever you can muster, it's so inexpensive. It's so impactful. Absolutely, positively, have those points, those touch points that create a difference between you and the next person. Be contrarian. Create those points of differentiation between you and your competition, and you will be better for it. All right. Don't forget, you're working twice as hard for half the money. Go back to the basics. As always, you can find the podcast anywhere you podcast, Apple, iTunes, Spotify. We'd appreciate 5-star reviews and likes and shares and all that good stuff. Show the algorithm that you want more people to hear our voice. We genuinely appreciate that. But you can, again, find it anywhere, iHeart, Amazon, Pandora, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, any of those places. But give us some extra special attention on Apple and Spotify. I have a feeling that's where you're at anyway. Once again, you can find us on all the socials, facebook.com/The Resource Podcast, on Twitter @JTPA Louisville. Would love to engage with you there. @JPitts Realtor on Instagram. That is our premier place to distribute content. You can find us there in reels and feed posts and stories and the like. Follows are genuinely appreciated. We're trying to get to 10,000 followers by the end of the year. @J_Pitts on TikTok, another growth piece for us. We'd love to see you over there on TikTok. Like, share, text your friends, all those things. I might even do something funny every once in a while. Doubt it, but maybe I'll try and you can laugh at me trying. YouTube.com/JPitts Realtor is our YouTube channel. You can find anything we video, anything we record over there on YouTube, full-length episodes of the podcast, snippets, all the things. Don't forget about our sister piece of content, JTP University, specifically right now, JTPU Quick Hits over on TikTok and Instagram. It's where I answer one question in 30 seconds or less that is going to benefit you in the world of real estate. That's a tactical piece of content you can put to work right now. That's all we got for this week, folks. Once again, I am your host, Jay Pitts, broker owner, RE/MAX Premier Properties, leader of JT Pitts and Associates for Resource Real Talk about Louisville Real Estate. We'll see you next week.